Okay, so you want to own a barbershop, find a space, put in some chairs, hire a few barbers, cut hair, keep the money. It sounds about as simple as a business can get. Walk past a busy shop on a Saturday afternoon and you'll see why people believe that. Every chair is full, guys are waiting on the bench, scrolling their phones. The register keeps ringing. Someone's getting a fade, someone's getting a beard trim, someone's just there because it's part of his week. You watch that scene and think, this can't be that hard. Cut hair, get paid, repeat. Here's what that Saturday crowd isn't telling you. A barbershop is almost never really a haircut business. Most of the time, it's a landlord business wearing an apron. And once you understand that one idea, everything else about this business starts to make sense. Why a shop that's booked solid every day can barely break even, and why a shop that looks half empty most of the week can quietly make real money month after month. Let's start at the beginning. What does it actually cost to open the door? A modest shop with 4 to 6 chairs in a decent part of a town typically costs somewhere between $60,000 and $150,000 to open. That number covers more than people expect. You need plumbing installed for shampoo stations, which means real construction work, not just a sink from a hardware store. You need electrical wiring that can handle multiple clippers, dryers, and hot towel warmers running at the same time without tripping a breaker every hour. You need proper ventilation, especially if you plan to offer any chemical services like color or relaxers. You need business licensing, a lease deposit, insurance, and signage. And you need enough cash left over to survive the first few slow months before word gets around the neighborhood. Add all of that up, and even a small shop is a serious financial commitment before a single customer sits in a chair. And that number assumes your barbers show up ready to work. Every barber in your shop needs a state license, and getting that license means hundreds of documented hours of supervised training. That's not your cost directly, but it shapes everything about who you can hire and how fast you can replace someone. Try to save money by hiring someone who's still mid-training, and you'll deal with slower service, more mistakes, and unhappy customers. And the moment that barber finishes their training, they'll likely leave for a shop that pays better, because now they're fully qualified and you are just a stepping stone. The hidden cost of cheap labor in this business isn't the wage you paid. It's the constant turnover you get stuck cleaning up after. Now here comes the decision that shapes almost everything else about how this business actually runs. There are 2 completely different ways to structure the barbers working in your shop, and most new owners don't realize how much this one choice controls their future. The first model is commission. Under commission, the barber is your employee. You pay for their tools, you're responsible for scheduling them, and every haircut they do gets split between you and them, usually somewhere between 40 and 60% going to the barber. The second model is booth rent. Under booth rent, the barber is basically an independent tenant. They pay you a flat weekly fee, often somewhere between $150 and $400, and they keep every single dollar from every haircut they do. At first glance, commission feels like the safer choice for an owner. You're capturing a piece of every transaction that happens in your shop. But think about what that really means. Every slow Tuesday afternoon, every no-show, every quiet hour where a barber is standing around waiting for a walk-in, you're the one absorbing that cost. If the chair isn't earning, you're still paying that barber something and you're still not collecting your share of anything. Booth rent flips that completely. At first, it feels riskier because you're only collecting a flat fee, no matter how buzzy that chair gets. But here's the part that most first-time owners completely miss. That flat rent shows up whether the chair is busy or not. If business is slow that week, that's the barber's problem, not yours. You already got paid. This is exactly why so many successful, established shops eventually shift toward a mostly booth rent model as they grow. It turns an unpredictable up and down service business into something that behaves a lot more like collecting rent on a small piece of real estate. So if booth rent is safer for the owner, why doesn't every single shop just run that way from day one? Because it comes with a risk that most people never think about until it actually happens to them, and it has almost nothing to do with how many customers walk through your front door. Here's the risk. A barber who rents a chair from you owns their own clients, not you, them. Think about the guy who's been coming to the same chair every 3 weeks for the last 2 years. He's loyal to that barber, the one who knows exactly how he likes his fade, remembers his kid's name, and always has something to talk about. He is not loyal to your sign. out front. In most states, a booth renting barber is legally treated as an independent contractor, not a regular employee. And that matters, because the kind of non-compete agreement that would normally protect a business from losing customers when an employee leaves is very difficult, sometimes impossible, to enforce against an independent contractor. That means your best barber can give you 2 weeks' notice, rent a chair in a shop 2 blocks away, and take 200 loyal paying clients with him by the end of the month. Your chair sits empty. Your rent on the building doesn't drop $1. And the revenue that chair used to bring in simply packed up and moved 3 blocks down the street. This is the real fragility hiding underneath a barbershop, and it's not about foot traffic at all. It's about how much of your income is tied to specific people you don't actually control. The shops that get hurt worst by this are the ones where one standout barber, the guy everyone requests by name, is quietly carrying 30 or 40% of the entire shop's revenue on his personal client list. Lose that one guy and you haven't just lost a fifth of your income. You've lost one of the legs holding up the whole table. So how does a smart owner actually protect against something like that? Not by trying to prevent it completely, because you can't. Barbers leave. That's just the nature of the business. Instead, the smart move is to build revenue streams that belong to the shop itself, not to any single share or any single person. And that's where the real profit in this business has been quietly hiding the entire time, right at the front counter. Let's talk about the actual math on a haircut, because this is where a lot of the mystery clears up. A basic men's haircut typically runs somewhere between $25 and $45, depending on the city and the neighborhood. After you split that with the barber under either model, the owner's actual take from one single haircut is often just a few dollars once you account for the shampoo used, the towel that has to be washed, and the time that chair was tied up. The haircut on its own barely moves the needle for the owner. What the haircut actually does is bring the same customer back through your door every 3 to 4 weeks like clockwork. The real money shows up in the 90 seconds right after the haircut is done. A bottle of pomade or beard oil might cost the shop somewhere between $6 and $10 wholesale, and it sells for $22 to $35 at the front counter. And unlike the haircut, none of that markup gets split with the barber. A shop where every barber makes one honest, simple product recommendation at the end of each cut can see retail sales that add up to more than an entire slow weekday's worth of haircuts. Membership plans work the exact same trick from a different angle. A customer paying a flat monthly fee for unlimited or scheduled haircuts locks in steady, predictable revenue for the shop, the same way a gym membership does. And just like a gym, plenty of those members will pay every single month and actually use the plan less often than they expected to when they signed up, which quietly makes the math even better for the owner. Now let's talk about the leak that almost nobody accounts for until they sit down and actually measure it. No-shows and last-minute cancellations. Depending on how loose or strict your booking system is, these typically eat up somewhere between 10 and 20% of a shop's entire booked calendar. Think about what that actually means on a 6-chair shop. That's not a small scheduling annoyance. That's an entire chair sitting empty, earning nothing, for 10 to 20% of every single working day. A simple text message confirmation the day before, combined with a small deposit required for booked appointments, can claw back most of that lost time. It's one of the cheapest, easiest fixes available in this entire business, and it's shocking how many shops never bother to set it up. There's also a calendar to think about, because business in a barbershop is not steady all year round. Demand spikes hard around certain times, holidays, graduation season, the week before a big family event, and shops that don't plan their staffing around those spikes either turn away walk-in customers during their busiest and most profitable week of the year, or they run their existing barbers ragged trying to cover the demand, which just leads to burnout and more turnover down the line. So let's actually run the numbers and see what a full year looks like when things go well, and what it looks like when something goes wrong. In the good scenario, picture a 6-chair shop running a mix of booth rent and commission chairs, a solid retail attach rate at the counter, and a simple deposit system in place for bookings. A shop like that can generate somewhere between $400,000 and $650,000 in gross shop-side revenue over a year, depending on the market it's in. After paying rent, utilities, insurance, and everyday supplies, the owner's net profit margin usually lands somewhere between 15 and 25%. That can put a real $70,000 to $130,000 in the owner's pocket for the year, on top of a business that keeps growing in value. Now here is the realistic scenario, and it doesn't require anything dramatic to happen. Picture this. Your top booth renting barber, the one who's quietly responsible for a third of your shop's reputation and most of your foot traffic on Instagram, gives his notice and opens a chair 2 miles away. It takes 3 or 4 months to find and build up a replacement anywhere close to that same level, because a brand new renter starts with an empty appointment book and has to earn every single client's trust one haircut at a time. At the exact same time, a new competing shop opens down the street offering a cheaper monthly membership plan, and your own no-show rate quietly creeps up because you never got around to setting up that deposit system you've been meaning to fix for the last year. Retail sales at that now empty chair drop close to zero because there's no established relationship there to drive product recommendations anymore. Your membership plan loses a chunk of but price-sensitive regulars to the cheaper competitor down the block. Stack those two very ordinary, very realistic setbacks together, and a shop like this can lose somewhere between $60,000 and $90,000 off its annual bottom line. And none of that happened because the building fell apart or the equipment broke or a single customer got a bad haircut. It happened because the shop's income was tied too heavily to people and habits the owner never fully controlled in the first place. And that's the real lesson sitting underneath everything in this business. It was never really about how good your barbers are with a pair of clippers. A barbershop is a landlord business wearing an apron, and the owners who actually make real money long term are the ones who build something that can survive just fine on the day one of their tenants decides to walk out the door. If this gave you a clearer picture of how a barbershop actually works, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who want to understand how these businesses really run. Thanks for watching.